I've heard a lot of people talking about gun control. You have to wave a magic wand and get rid of the establishment. This maniac is going to inspire the next maniac.
News, analysis, opinion.
But my focus is kind of the mental health crisis. Swamp's not going to drain itself. I'm just sick of the protesting in general, and that's why it's so very important to be prepared.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The time to rise has been engaged. We're better, best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. The finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday afternoon. This is Colombo and Company on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. I am Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn, and we have got a lot to talk about today. We've got some interesting developments, specifically surrounding Eric Swalwell and the new FBI reports showing his sexual history with Fang Fang, which is just great. We all know the backstory here with the Chinese spy that was basically living with Eric Swalwell for years, and then he and Democrats tried to deny that there was anything weird or wrong about this relationship, even though it seemed like there was definitely a lot of weird and wrong things with this relationship. Well, now there has been a bunch of released FBI documents showing interviews that the FBI conducted with Eric Swalwell and others in recent years where the truth has been revealed, which is pretty great because when you take the truth and you put it next to all of the defenses and accusations that Swalwell and the Democrats were making against the media, Republicans, the president, it's pretty funny. And these interviews with the FBI where he admitted that he was sleeping with Fang Fang, the Chinese spy, are from 10 years ago. 10 plus years ago. I think one of them from 2015. So he had already admitted behind the scenes. He had already admitted to law enforcement that he, was conducting himself in this way, while for years afterwards lying to the media, the voters of California. This guy was, if you remember, just a few months ago, he was running for governor of California, and he probably would have won. He had a real good chance of it, at least. And this guy was still, somehow, I don't understand how people like him and Adam Schiff and Kamala Harris, all these people have one thing in common there, and that's the state of California. But all these horrible people just keep advancing, keep moving up. They don't lose their job. Speaking of that, Tim Walz is back in the news today. Here's another guy. I mean, he's finally decided that he's not going to run for re-election in Minnesota because it's gotten so bad. But this guy was almost vice president. And he still has his job. He's still the governor of a state. And he's back in the news today because a person that he awarded something called the Outstanding Refugee Honor several years ago in Minnesota has now been connected with Medicaid fraud and human trafficking. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's it's amazing. We've also got Meta in court. That case, we talked about a little bit about this yesterday. It's a perfect day to talk about it this afternoon because in a little less than an hour from now at 3 o'clock, we are going to talk to Susie Moore, our legal expert here on the show. Of course, you can hear Susie every weekday morning with Mike Ferguson on Mike Ferguson in the Morning and read her articles every day at redstate.com. But it's a perfect day to talk to Susie because I think this is going to be a massively impactful case, whatever the decision ends up being. And I set this up a little bit yesterday, and again, we'll really get into it with Susie, but today, at 3, Meta is facing accusations of targeting children for addiction to Facebook and Instagram. So there are 29 different states. Missouri's not one of them. Colorado, California, and Kentucky, and New Jersey, those 4 states, California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey, are leading the group, but 29 total states have signed on to this lawsuit against Meta, and specifically the platforms of Facebook and Instagram, claiming that those platforms had a business model that was all about trying to hook users and literally make them addicted to those social media platforms and like overall. But then also the lawsuit claims that they were specifically targeting the younger generations during that. So I think this case is going to go on for a while. Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify. I mean, it's going to be a circus. And, in the end, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here because as I said yesterday, if you prove that Facebook is addictive, what does that mean for TikTok? I mean, immediately, doesn't this put all of the social media platforms under the gun, so to speak? So, this could have massive precedent. So looking forward to unpacking that and more with Susie Moore in the 3 o'clock hour. Also, another example of several states teaming up. Several Republican attorneys general are working together to investigate Anthony Fauci and looking at a way that through a state or multiple state lawsuit, these charges could bypass the Biden pardon, the federal pardon that Anthony Fauci enjoys. So look forward to unpacking that as we go through the day as well. Of course, all the latest coming out of Iran, and as we get closer to the election, things happening with the administration, the fight for daylight saving time that we'll never give up, we'll never drop, and more. Also, we'll probably revisit Andy Beshear's calls for eliminating the Electoral College because that one is just, funny but scary all at the same time. Along with Susie today, we're going to be joined by Mike McCleary, our big tech AI expert in the 3 o'clock hour. He'll be with us at about 3:25 this afternoon. Always interesting things to talk about it when it comes to AI, but there's a couple big stories happening this week that we're going to fill you in on when we get Mike on the line. And I think, do we have him on the line right now? Right now, joining us on the line, starting off this Tuesday afternoon, as he often does with us on Tuesdays here on Colombo and Company, from NothingButTruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. The great Crane Durham is on the line. And Crane, another crazy summer afternoon in 2026. It's important to remember that brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got a hug.
Bring it in, honey bear.
There it is. We got him.
Gotta bring it in, okay? Because
Bring
the
it in
hug
for the
is
real
more
thing.
important than ever.
You know it, baby.
We are the election, November coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
every election is about a choice. This is a choice that we're going to make between free market capitalism and socialism. Now, and communism for that matter. That's a big part of it. Also, you mentioned, I mean, there was so much there, very rich in content and texture. The opening intro, bravo, my friend.
Like Meta, I have to make
Because-
people addicted to the show so they don't go anywhere.
Yes.
You just got to
Yes.
get it all. You got to hook them.
Yeah, and we're finding out things about people and saying, "Oh my gosh, this person is really bad." The Dems, the left, have a tendency to embrace some really bad folks like
Yeah.
Avenatti. Remember Florida?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then the Florida governor who ran against DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot his name, but I think he likes allegedly meth, and that is a problem. And I wish
Yeah.
him the best.
Yeah.
But the bottom line, John Edwards, go back. There was so much evidence against him. Finally, it broke through. And then we want to talk about Mike Brown and then the SPLC. I mean, you think about what people say, hey, you know what? I hate Trump so much. Oh, and capitalism. I hate Trump so much. Oh, and war. I hate Trump so much. I want us to lose wars. And
Yeah.
I believe in communism.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and literally, yesterday we did that. We did the story about a poll that was just conducted that showed that Democratic voters across the country have I don't have the numbers in front of me anymore, but of socialism, not communism, but the concern is the same. Democratic voters across the country had a very high favorability of socialism and a very low favorability of capitalism, which shows you exactly where the mindset of that side is and how much that's going to play a role in the midterm elections. And if Republicans don't hold on to power in those midterm elections, those are the folks that are going to be in charge and dictating the path. Go ahead.
Well, they've got to offer an alternative, and it's been talked about on your program through many guests, I know, about an alternative plan. You got to bring them something, the voters something. Republicans talk about possibly a federal tax relief for people who are under 30 and not penalize them. That was PBD's idea. I only got a top end of that, but that, it inspires and invigorates and rejuvenates that American spirit and it gives people a leg up. The other thing is not only that, but the president's got to get together on this Iran war, and he's got to define victory. He must define victory. He must bring the cabinet members out to defend the policy and say, hey, this is where we're going. This is what's happened. I know there's things he can't talk about. I also know that this is a worthy enterprise. And communication is huge because otherwise the false narratives will get out there, much like what we heard recently on the news networks regarding one of the ships. Carriers.
Well, lack of communication is what lost the Republicans in Missouri, Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, a couple weeks ago during the primary election. And what a perfect lesson to be learned that outreach and communication with voters and understanding the issues and what's at stake is so important. And on a day where, Ashlyn pulled up that poll, a CBS News poll, it was 32% favorability of capitalism and a 58% favorability of socialism among Democratic voters across the country. Now,
would that have happened? I got to ask you, as a Generation Xer, and by the way, Ashlyn, brava, great job. Now, we move to this. As a Generation Xer, would we ever even think? I mean, it's such a stupid idea. 20th century is replete with examples of how deadly this crap is.
We've brought back a lot of things that would have been stupid and were dead. When I was a kid in the 90s, in high school, in the 90s, growing up, playing sports, interacting with fellow young people. Hello, fellow children. Racism was a thing of the past, essentially. The idea of the United States, embracing socialism or communism would have been a crazy thing. We've brought back a lot of evil in the last 20 years that was on the run and basically defeated, in the 20, 30 years ago. But this progressive left has brought back a lot of that hate and division and issues of the past.
Regarding race, a great point is go back and watch television shows. Nerd alert! I do this on occasion with the court shows and reruns of the '90s. You won't see racism. You won't see people claiming victimology. The fact is, this is a construct of the left, and it started in our education institutions, and we've got an entire generation who's not willing to engage but shout down because they can't reason. They haven't been taught to reason. We got to get ahead of this, and we're way behind right now.
Because everybody needs an excuse for why they aren't a billionaire, why they don't live a life of luxury, and they have to have excuses and they have to blame people. I mean, I'm not saying, and it's stupid that I have to explain myself here, but I'm not saying that that racism was gone, but it was definitely on the run, and it was definitely more of a thing of the past. Growing up in North County, and as I said, playing sports and having teammates that were from all diverse backgrounds, and there were no conversations about, I don't think so-and-so can get a job because they're black, or I don't think so-and-so can get a job because they're Mexican. I don't think so-and-so is going to be able to go to the same college because of, the color of their, that wasn't part of our lives. And it has been brought back in a big way to be part of our lives.
It has become the issue, and you go back and you look at that and you say victimology is a disease. It handicaps people who buy into it, and you could say, well, obviously racism will never go away, and that's why race relations and all the way up to 2014, end of 2013, were good. We're going in the right direction, and they went in and they basically, the deconstructionists took over and destroyed that. And the mainstream media went along with them. But when you didn't make it, when I didn't make it, when I was sitting there on the radio station, WG, whatever it was, late at night, Saturday night, I could only afford this. I did the show, and I think like 6 people were listening to me. Okay, all right, and I looked at everything as opportunity. People asked me, "What do I do?" I was like, "Oh, I do this," and then
it's because you were a white Christian. No, that's it. That's the mindset now, is to look for an excuse and blame and do everything they can to pit the country against each other, to pit, to sow those seeds of division. And it's gonna be a big deal coming up. I mean, this midterm election, there's a lot on the line here, and I want to talk about. I really want to talk about Eric Swalwell. We're going to dig into that here in just a second, because these documents that were just released by the FBI are pretty amazing, and does really shine a spotlight on how, the depth of their lies and their denials, when they knew all along what the truth was about his relationship with Fang Fang. But it's something that I've brought up a couple times, and something that I want to, talk about as we go through all of this. How are the Republicans? Donald Trump's got his issues in Iran. I've got a lot of criticism there, and there's certainly. Congress is far from perfect. They are, massively frustrating. But how are you losing to a team that has people like Eric Swalwell and Tim Walz and AOC and Zorhan Mandani, leading the these are the faces of the progressive left, and the Republicans are losing the midterm elections to these guys. I mean, like, how bad do you have to mess up to lose to a team like that? I want to talk about that and more as we continue the conversation. Crane Durham is here with us for this entire 2 o'clock hour. You're listening to Colombo and Company.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
Life is just a rodeo. The trick is to ride, make it to
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app
Love the all-new Newstalk STL app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
In Missouri, your home works hard to keep up with the weather. Johnson Heating and Cooling works harder. We're a local family-owned company specializing in residential heating and cooling, service, repair, replacement, maintenance, even new construction. Our NATE-certified technicians and trained comfort specialists keep families comfortable across Wentzville, O'Fallon, St. Charles, and beyond. Call 636-332-4141 or johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story, 1969, the most famous concert in history, Woodstock.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in studio. Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com on the line with us. And Crane, it is now a fact, as we have seen the records now released, newly declassified FBI records show that Eric Swalwell did indeed sleep with Fang Fang. Multiple times, in fact. Disgraced former Representative Eric Swalwell, Democrat out of California, admitted to FBI agents that he had physical relations with suspected Chinese intelligence operative Christine Fang, a.k.a. Fang Fang, on a, quote, handful of occasions. Again, all of this from newly declassified FBI records. The records, which were declassified by President Donald Trump and released by the White House Government Transparency Task Force yesterday, detailed two FBI interviews with Swalwell, one in May of 2015 and another in March of 2016, which, Crane, I pointed this out earlier. That's, first of all, that's already amazing because that is 11 years ago. So 11 years ago, he told the FBI that he was sleeping with Fang Fang. And for 11 years after that, anytime that this issue was brought up, anytime the weirdness of having a now revealed to be Chinese spy so close to you for such a long time was weird, and your closeness was weird, and it didn't seem like, it seemed like there was some inappropriate things happening there. For 11 years, after admitting to the FBI what really happened, Swalwell and the Democrats still looked in the eyes of the American people and the voters of California and said, it never happened. These are all lies. These are all just false allegations from the Republicans trying to take us down. Pretty amazing. I mean, not surprising, but I like when they're caught and they, with no wiggle room to prove how capable they are of lying to the American people.
National security is only an issue if it can be used against the Republicans or conservatives for the vast majority of Dems. That's what I've seen. They lost Vietnam, not because we lost, but because we bailed on the South Vietnamese. They were losing the Cold War. Carter woke up a little at the very end, but Reagan won it. Ted Kennedy, you could go back then about the Cold War. I digress, only to say this. Every time there is an issue where a national security goes forward and there's a spotlight on it, if there is a political gain to be made, boom, they'll do it. If there's not, you get this behavior of absolute negligence from Nancy Pelosi and not removing him.
So in the 2015 interview with the FBI, a former Swalwell campaign aide, and by the way, most of my report here is from the reports from the New York Post and Fox News Digital, but this stuff is everywhere, obviously. But that's where I gathered most of the facts that I am relaying now. The interview that was conducted in May of 2015, a former Swalwell campaign aide told agents that Fang Fang was very it's just impossible to, I mean, how is this real life? Was very flirtatious, as well as a few other things I won't say because it's gross. Like the way that she talked, they relayed some of the things like that she would say and do around. Yeah, exactly. Swalwell told the FBI that both of his sexual encounters with Fang Fang, who then they go other way in this report, with Fang described as a striking individual in the documents. No, she's not. There's pictures of this woman all over the place. She's pretty. She's not ugly. But to act like, why is that in there? Why do they put that in the report? Described as striking in the documents. No, she's not. And what does that have to do with anything? Is it like, oh, well, if she was just a 6, it'd be one thing. But if she's a 10, then Eric Swalwell, what could he do? What could anybody do?
Politics adds.
It's so stupid to put a line like that, described as striking. First of all, no, she's not. Second of all, what does that have to do with anything?
They can make Rosie O'Donnell nice. They can do anything. And remember, it's like an additional 5 points if they're in politics as opposed to entertainment. And that's sometimes what happens. But they're making it seem, they're selling the story here. And it goes into the narrative, oh, he just couldn't help himself. He was just starstruck. Yeah. And this guy is a bozo. He's like Avenatti in a way.
Yeah, very much so. And Adam Schiff. I think they're all in the same club. The documents describe Fang Fang as having been deeply involved in Swalwell's political operation. So she was involved in everything that the congressman was doing. They show that she helped him place an intern into his congressional office in Washington, D.C., as well as a different member of Congress's office. She regularly referred prospective interns to Swalwell's political operation through a group called the Asian Pacific Islander American Public Affairs Association. You get all that? APA. An organization in which she was personally connected with. So she was funneling other people into congressional offices and into Swalwell's office through this intern program, as well as being a spy herself. Now, we don't know that anything, we don't know, there's no proof, it doesn't get into, the background of all of those interns, but it sure is concerning that the Chinese spy that's working in a congressional office is specifically working with a particular group that's funneling interns into Washington, D.C. I don't know, sounds like a problem to me. And so during all of this, while he's sleeping with her, when he's lying to people, when he's allowing her to have such, access to everything, the entire time, the Democrats are lying about it to the American people. I just want to go a quick trip down memory lane here. Swalwell's links to Fang were first reported by Axios in December of 2020, 6 years ago. That led to then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy booting him from the House Intelligence Committee in January of 2023. So 3 years after the allegations, and some of this was being reported, that he was for 3 years after that, he was still on major committees, and he was still in Congress the entire time and running for governor just, last year. And then this gets to that. Last year when Swalwell was running for governor and Trump started talking about releasing these documents in this White House Transparency Task Force, which has now released these documents as well as others, Swalwell and the Dems again said it was all fake and that Swalwell, was the victim of a secret plot by Donald Trump and Kash Patel to take him down and interfere in the governor's race in California. A woman named Sarah Azari, who's an attorney for Swalwell, who is now under investigation herself for political, from the Fair Political Practices Commission, said at the time that the allegations were old news and that it hadn't been proven that Swalwell did anything wrong. There was no basis to charge him with any offense. She said it was, at the time, it was deeply concerning that the president was, quote, using federal law enforcement information to punish or embarrass an outspoken critic of his administration. An investigation that produced no charges and no finding of wrongdoing should not be resurrected years later as a vehicle for political retaliation. That was from the lawyer, and other Democrats were, parroting these statements. Swalwell made several appearances on media to attack Trump and Kash Patel, calling them, quote, dangerous individuals, said that, quote, Donald Trump and Kash Patel do not get to pick the next governor of California. Californians do. And in a social media post, Swalwell said, quote, Donald Trump attacks me almost every single week just because he sees me as a threat. So and now we know the truth, that all along, he knew, the FBI knew, the Democrats knew that he was guilty and good for all of these things. And yet, just as recently as a few months ago, they're lying to the American people and trying to win an election in California. Amazing.
Colombo
Your
flip
thoughts?
test.
Yeah.
Colombo flip test.
Oh, baby. No kidding. It would have never gotten this far. It would have never gotten this far if it was a controversial Republican candidate running for Senate or governor in a state. They wouldn't have had a chance to lie this much because it would have just been stopped. It would have been exposed so much faster. But when you got the media on your side, you can go a long way, even when you know you're wrong. Go ahead.
And that's sometimes you see outbreaks of journalism from the media. And I think Terry Moran was admitting to some censorship from ABC. I read that a little earlier last week or this week. But here it is in a nutshell. You have an entire PR firm dedicated to the party of crazy who can't tell the difference between a man and a woman, who looks at sexual behavior and out of bounds sexual behavior and says, you know what, if there's an R by the name, we're going to go after it, as they should. And if it's a D, well, Bill Clinton. Okay, go back. John Edwards, look at how they hold these things. And it really goes to a cynical view of politics, because you think they always have these things, they can just drop them whenever they really want to. But the real story is that they're not reporting it when it happens and when they have access to the information, and they're using the governor of that. They're sacrificing it on the altar of politics. It's sick. It's wrong. It's anti-American.
And just when you think it can't get any worse, we're going to go from California to Minnesota, where all the trouble, all of the fraud, and all the things that have been exposed that Tim Walz is guilty of and is allowed to happen under his watch as governor of Minnesota, the guy who was almost vice president of the United States, there's a new revelation about something that has happened under his watch that he was a part of that might be the worst thing yet. And I'm going to explain that, and we're going to talk about it with Crane Durham as we continue here on Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
He ain't got much to say, but he loves me. I know that he loves me anyway.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
There is no better company to support than a local family-owned business, especially that one that is outperforming their competition, outperforming many times, the big corporate national stores, no matter what you're talking about, products, services, whatever it may be. And a perfect example of this is the team at Grasser Home Services, local family-owned business that has been servicing the St. Louis area for years, will be here in the community for years to come. Grasser Home Services for years was your go-to place for all your electrical needs. And while that continues, now it's more because they can take care of all your plumbing needs as well. You guys have heard me talk about my experiences with Grasser. They're absolutely fantastic. We've had them in our home multiple times. They are exactly the type of professionals that you can trust when it comes to issues as important as your electrical and plumbing needs at your home or business. Grasser Home Services specializes in all electrical needs, ranging from large-scale commercial projects all the way down to simple home service needs like replacing a bad light switch, and now as well as all your plumbing needs, from fixture and pipe repairs and replacements, including garbage disposals, sump pumps, and water softeners. Grasser also offers free quotes for new projects, so if you have an electrical problem or a plumbing problem or just need a quote for new work, contact Grasser now. Learn more and contact them through the website, callgrasser.com.
Ronald Reagan once famously said, "Government is not the solution, government is the problem." When it comes to economic growth, government can be a roadblock. With red tape, regulations, and subsidies, government stifles entrepreneurship and also props up businesses that deserve to go under. Unlike government, free markets encourage risk-taking, freedom to succeed or fail. Governments shouldn't be picking winners and losers, the market should. Free markets benefit the business owner and the customer by encouraging competition. Free market enabled a young man named J.C. Hall selling picture postcards in Kansas City to turn his idea into Hallmark cards. In St. Louis, the free market made it possible for Adolphus Busch to turn his father-in-law's local beer into the world's largest brewery. A free market also means you get to send your kids to the school of your choice. Learn more about free markets at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Yo, this is Vic. Vic for Vets is proudly honoring our veterans. Every Wednesday at 11:05, you'll hear about that day's honoree and their incredible service to our country.
Hi, it's Ken. You want to nominate a veteran? Send their name, service information, and story to me, Ken, at newstalkstl.com.
Brought to you by Heroes Care, Alamo Military Collectibles, Gemini Wealth Group, Michael's Funeral Home, and Freddie's Market.
Together, let's celebrate the heroes in our community. Vic for Vets, where honor meets gratitude.
Hey everyone, this is Jesse from Reach Reproductive Health, and I need you to mark your calendar because on October 22nd, it's going to be a big night in St. Louis. It's going to be our second annual Reach Gala, and it's happening at the factory. Incredible live music, powerful speakers, a night to celebrate life, and to support the Reach mission. Stay tuned to find out who's taking the stage. I promise you won't want to miss it. Registration is open right now at outreachforlife.org/gala.
Got scrap metal, junk cars, or old appliances taking up space? Turn that clutter into cash. Since 1968, 21 Recycling and Scrap Metal has been the area's trusted name for recycling. We buy copper, brass, aluminum cans, scrap iron, wheels, catalytic converters, AC units, water heaters, washers, dryers, and yes, junk cars too. With our brand new truck scale on premises, getting paid is fast and easy. Old Highway 21 by Highway M or 21-recycling.com.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Continuing the conversation with Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. So just talked about all of the new information that we've learned about Eric Swalwell sleeping with Fang Fang and the FBI documents that were just released yesterday by Donald Trump's White House Transparency Task Force. So pretty amazing stuff, exposing more lies and, you know, the actions of these leaders, these people that have been on the national spotlight as the stars of the progressive left in recent years. I would definitely include Eric Swalwell on that list until, you know, recently. Another person that's on that list is Tim Walz. And Crane, every time I think about this guy, every time we learn another thing about Minnesota and all the fraud that's gone on up there, and just hear this guy talk and lied about his military service. He posted a stupid video of him golfing last week and was lying in the video about golf. Like, this man just cannot help himself. And this gets back to my point from earlier. This was the guy that they thought was the best person to be vice president. The state of the Democratic Party is pathetic, and yet it's going to be a struggle for Republicans to defeat them in the midterm elections. It's pretty amazing that that's the situation in this country. Your thoughts? Uh-oh, did we lose Crane? I'm going to try to reconnect with him.
I am here.
There he is.
Here. And
did the mute button get you?
Yeah. Because I was just going off on walls. And I was like, I can't say that on air.
Go ahead.
He's not a threat to Kamala. And understand, Kamala didn't get a single vote.
That's a good point.
Okay. I mean, so you have somebody who's politically very bad, deficient, and then you have to go a level lower. And it just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. I mean, the other person out there is Jacob Fry. Gee, thinking about Minnesota,
kidding.
It's just
and
so
Keith Ellison.
bad.
And Keith Ellison.
And
Ilhan Omar. All of them from Minnesota. I'm telling you, they're giving California and New York a run for their money. I mentioned earlier, California, their murderers row of Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Adam Schiff, and Eric Swalwell. But Minnesota's just as bad, if not worse. Go ahead.
You can go Karen Bass as well. Get on the short bus of mediocrity.
Dude, I got a story about Karen Bass. I don't know if we'll see if we have time to get into it, but she's in the news today too, which is another amazing story. But in Minnesota, just when you think it can't get worse for a loser like Tim Walz, and also the overall picture when it comes to the Democrats' breathless fight to defend illegal aliens and prop illegal aliens up above American citizens. Keeping that in mind with this conversation as well. An immigrant in Minnesota who received the Outstanding Refugee Award from Tim Walz and the Minnesota state government has now been charged with Medicaid fraud, prompting a strong backlash on social media. And it gets worse. Salman Ahmad Elmi is facing 3 counts of aiding and abetting by swindle and 5... That's pretty great. Aiding and abetting by swindle. and 5 counts. What a charge. Yeah.
What are you doing? Swindle.
He's been charged with malarkey. And 5 counts of aiding and abetting by false representation as part of an alleged scam to bill Medicaid for over $1 million in fraudulent services, according to a report from Fox 9, a local news there in Minneapolis. So this guy who won the Outstanding Refugee Award for how great what a great person he was, has now been charged with these. In the charges, it's also revealed that 2 members involved in the same fraud scheme with this guy are tied to a sex trafficking ring involving brothels. So this guy definitely, at least is being charged with these accusations and accounts of false representation and scamming Medicaid for over $1 million. And he has connections in these charges, at least, tied to a sex trafficking ring. And this is a guy who, not long ago, was given, in 2021, given the Outstanding Refugee Award from Tim Walz and the Minnesota government. You can't make this up, Crane. You can't make it up. It's so ridiculous. If you tried to write it down as a parody, people would go, that's too much. But this is real life. Go ahead. Your thoughts.
Yeah, that vetting process is just second to none. Amazing what they can do. And it is truly outrageous Now, if I'm looking at this and I want to talk about fraud, I bring up the victims of that fraud. I make them part of every story that the news is going to cover because I'm going to show the impact it has on the most vulnerable people and say, and they're using this as a shield. Oh, he was a refugee. And this is where you can go with emotion. You can tap into the emotion and also make a reasoned, rational case by just telling the truth about how bad this stuff is and bad this stuff was. You've got journalists like Nick Shirley, by the way, great get for Jamie. That was last hour. You have these people, they're being out there and they're criticized not because their information is necessarily bad or misinformed or off a little. No, it's how dare they step into the zone of the fourth estate and actually tell the truth. And oftentimes we call these people heroic for uncovering this stuff. And really, the only way to do this is oftentimes a lot of times I just sit there and I go, bring up the victim, tell the story about the victims, because that's what you're making your judgment on. This is not benign. It's harmful.
Yeah. And get this. Not only did this guy win the Outstanding Refugee Award from the state of Minnesota in 2021, he also won an Entrepreneurship Award from the state of Minnesota in 2021. Entrepreneurship, yeah, because he came up with, he's so good at business. He was able to scam over $1 million from Medicaid of the state and steal from, it's
the Bernie Madoff Award.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. Like, you can't make it up. It's so ridiculous and corrupt. And this is what happens when you put your city, your state, your country in the hands of these extreme progressive socialists that are now running the Democratic Party. Go ahead.
I can't wait for Medicare for all. I can't wait for that.
Right.
It's going to be so good. They do such a good job with all those things.
This guy already had that Medicare for all.
Right. That's the thing. You sit there and you go, and people are saying, you know what? We want less power, less accountability, and we want a bigger government to take over because they're doing just a great job. You know, if somebody, messes me out or my family out of some money in a bad business deal, right? You sit around the dinner table and you sit there and you go, okay, if this happened, we want to get it back and all that, but it will never happen again.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned
government doesn't feel that way.
You mentioned Karen Bass real quick. We just have a few minutes left here with Crane Durham. A poll came out recently regarding the mayoral race between Karen Bass and her main competitor, which is a council member there, Nithya Raman, I think is how you pronounce her name. But anyway, this poll came out and showed that Karen Bass was leading by a wide. Did you see this? Did you see this story?
No, tell the story. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Leading by a wide margin and picking up support from voters, according to this new poll, which has now been revealed to have been a completely fake poll. This was a poll that Bass herself put out on social media, touted, said, look at how great we're doing. We're on a roll. We're doing great for LA. Median Strategies is the name of the polling organization. They have now said that they created their company as a short-term social experiment to examine how purported polling information could enter and spread through the political information ecosystem. What?
Yeah,
it was a social experiment. They also put out a poll regarding the Wisconsin race with Francesca Wong, the one who wanted to get rid of Thanksgiving. They had put out a poll regarding that race before it happened, obviously, showing Francesca Wong, winning, and obviously she lost that race. But yeah, and then when people pointed out, like, hey, some of these numbers look a little weird, these polls aren't really, didn't really make it. Oh yeah, no, we weren't a real polling organization. This was all a social experiment. And even Karen Bass was posting these results and touting them on social media.
She's embraced
what?
Well, she's embraced the Candace Owens level of vetting information and going with it. It's just that good.
I don't know.
We thought that lowered the standard and it is pretty icky and wrong and sick. And now we're embracing it. And it's just plain awful.
I don't even know what to make of this because, like I'm getting this information from local LA news sources and not being there. Like, were they questioning these poll results the entire time? Did this company was it kind of called out for not being a known poll? Or was everybody reporting? Because that's what it seemed like.
Yeah,
everybody there was reporting on these polls like they were, legitimate. And now we find out that it was all fake to begin. I mean, one of the most bizarre stories, but just add it to the pile.
Well, add it to Michael Brown.
Yeah.
Add it to Michael Brown.
Yeah.
The biggest
Crane,
lie.
We got to go, but appreciate your time as always. Crane's with us
you.
every Tuesday. Love you too, buddy. Check him out every Tuesday here with us, and, of course, every day at nothingbuttruth.com and on the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. We'll talk to you soon, Crane. Thank you. Crane mentioned Nick Shirley. Don't forget, he's coming to town Friday, September 25th. Get all the details and tickets now just by going to our website, newstalkstl.com. All right, coming up at the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk AI with Mike McCleary, and we're going to talk about Meta going to court with Susie Moore next.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Identity theft can cost more than you think. Drained investment accounts, stolen tax returns, lost wages, expenses for lawyers. It's a lot. That's why LifeLock is backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers up to $1 million for stolen funds, fees, and experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses. Don't face the burden of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 30% off your first year with promo code BECK at LifeLock.com. 1-800-LifeLock, promo code BECK. LifeLock.com. Terms to apply.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight illnesses like pneumococcal pneumonia and RSV. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and can help protect you from getting really sick. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. See more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. 3 states holding primaries today. Correspondent Laura Winters takes a look at an interesting race involving 2 Republicans in Alaska.
In Alaska, 2 guys with the same name, Senator Dan Sullivan, middle initial S, running for a 3rd term, up against retired teacher Dan Sullivan, middle initial J. President Trump weighing in on all this and saying on his Truth Social page, Alaska, be careful. Vote for the real Dan Sullivan today. Through me, he's brought hundreds of billions of dollars back to your state. The Democrats know how good he is and have put up an imposter of the same name. Vote for the incumbent senator. Don't let these fraudsters get away with this hoax.
That is correspondent Laura Winters reporting. Republican redistricting is shaping Florida's primaries today. More on that from correspondent Bernie Bennett.
Responding to President Donald Trump's desire to have a better shot at defending the Republican majority in Congress, Governor Ron DeSantis eagerly pushed to redraw Florida's congressional districts. It's yielded a round of political dominoes in South Florida. Broward County, the most left-leaning in the state, is down to 1 presumably Democratic district. It's plurality black. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who doesn't live in the district, is the favorite as the lone white candidate in District 20. Wasserman Schultz and Jared Moskowitz live in a redrawn District 22 that now reaches the more conservative Gulf Coast. Bernie Bennett reporting.
Meta is back in court, accused of using programs that harm children.
The states accuse Meta of harming youth mental health by deliberately designing features to get kids addicted to its platforms. They also say Meta breaks federal law by routinely collecting data on children under 13 without parental consent.
That is Kelvin Chan reporting. Attorneys general from California, Colorado, Kentucky, and New Jersey seeking a financial penalty that could, in theory, cost the company as much as $1.4 trillion. More of these stories from townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
When I was feeling the stress of too much credit card debt, I looked at two different options: debt settlement and debt management. They may sound the same, but guess what? They're not. Debt settlement seemed like a quick fix, but I found out it would destroy my credit, create tax headaches, and hit me with huge fees. They actually told me to stop paying my bills. No way, not me. Then I turned to a debt management plan developed by the team at Trinity. They worked with my creditors, lowered my payments, reduced my interest, saved me thousands, and paid off my debt. And Trinity is a Christian company, which is important to me.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We have some scattered storms with heavy rain and some gusty winds overnight into early Wednesday morning. This will probably make for a slower Wednesday morning commute with a low of 71. Clouds and an isolated shower thunderstorm linger into the afternoon to evening, a high of 81 degrees. Cooler because of all the clouds and the rain, but the heaviest rain will be in the morning hours. Thursday, partly cloudy and a high of 85. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Business owners, download your free playbook for financial clarity at SerenityWealthBiz.com. That's SerenityWealthBiz.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere.
Just like the white-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company. Great conversation with Crane Durham in that 2 o'clock hour. Coming up this hour, we are going to talk to our big tech AI expert, Mike McCleary from Intervine and intervine.com. A lot of conversations about, as we develop AI and it becomes more prevalent in our lives, what should be the rules and regulations around those things? And some of those issues are being addressed right now by the big AI companies, and Mike's going to fill us in on that. Also, a new deal has been inked with groups like Warner Brothers Music and BMG that would allow musical artists to be used in AI-generated music. That's I have questions. Let's just say that. And I'm going to ask them to Mike when we get him on the line here. He'll be with us in about 20 minutes. But first, it is time to talk to our legal expert here on Colombo and Company from Red State, redstate.com, Red State Radio, which you can hear every Sunday afternoon here on News Talk STL, the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the morning, which you can hear every weekday morning here on News Talk STL, number 8 in your programs, but number 1 with a bullet in your hearts, Susie Moore. Hi, Susie.
Hi, Tony.
How are you?
I don't want to put a bullet in anyone's heart. Seems violent.
Well, I'm just trying to make my point.
I know.
You gotta be sensational journalism to get anybody's attention these days.
Get those clicks.
So, I love this. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm sure there will be lots of things that I'm disgusted by and aggravated by, but I am very interested in this lawsuit against Meta, which is, I guess, kind of officially underway as of today. U.S. states, attorneys general from multiple states are bringing a case against Meta, specifically when it comes to Facebook and Instagram, claiming that these platforms had a system of making people addicted to their social media platforms, specifically the younger generation. And these states are saying that this was misleading, it was illegal, and Meta needs to be held to account. I know there's a whole lot deeper than that, but is that a basic representation of what this case is all about?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good representation of it. I mean, that's not a case that I've looked at closely at to kind of study the ins and outs of all the claims there, but that is my understanding of essentially what is the grounds on which they are bringing the lawsuit against them.
And that, to me, and that stuff, which we don't know yet, and we'll see it as it's brought out, is they say that this case is expected to last between 4 and 6 weeks. Mark Zuckerberg is expected to testify, so that'll be an absolute circus when that happens. And to me, the reason that I'm so interested in this is because I feel like it will have, whatever happens, it will set a precedent, and it will have an impact on the other social media platforms moving forward. Because as I've said earlier, if they make the case and prove the case that Facebook is guilty of getting young people addicted to their social media platform, then what is TikTok?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like some of these other, depending on what happens here, this could have a major impact on all social media platforms, not just Meta, moving forward, could it not?
Absolutely, it could. I mean, it's definitely if they're socked with massive fines or verdicts that they have to pay for. I mean, that's going to send ripple effects through the entire social media industry. And I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not worth that
right.
that awakening being brought happening, but.
Right.
It's a little hard to know exactly how this is all going to be shaped and what the evidence is going to end up looking like. Because I think, from a layperson's standpoint, almost anybody who has any familiarity with these platforms recognizes that they have an addictive component to them. Whether that's something that should subject a company to legal liability, that's a tougher call.
Yeah, big time. And that to me, that's the really interesting thing here, because do I think that social media platforms create algorithms and present content in such a way to try to get you hooked and doom scrolling and before you even know it, you've been just mindlessly viewing their content for minutes, if not hours, and where did the day, what
Years.
just happened here?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
fell in absolutely. They of course they do that, but I mean, it's my job, it's your job to present content that is compelling, that gets people hopefully to keep listening to what we're talking about. Hopefully we are providing, content, in our case, information and opinion that people want to hear and watch. And we do the same. We use social media to put things out there, and we want, to make them as appealing as possible to get people to look at them. So that's the thing to me that is the really interesting thing, is where is that line? And when it comes to the young people, is it the content provider's responsibility to pull back on how interesting or addictive, I guess, if you want to use that word, being a true being, and I don't want to like do the whole. I don't want to rehash my whole life or put myself at the center of this. But people that have been listening to me for a long time know that I went through a drug addiction, opioid addiction, and so have lived through that, and that's always going to be a part of my life. So whenever anybody, and I don't ever look, I don't mind when people use that word, but when we use that word, like, it's something that I pay close attention to because are you, when I was addicted to opioids, if I didn't have those drugs, I was extremely ill. It was a physical problem. If you pull some kid off of social media, I get I get why the word addiction is used, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm a little bit more sensitive to that word.
Psychological addiction, not a physiological addiction.
Yes.
And there is a distinction.
Yes. Is it their job as a platform to make the content or make their platform a little less interesting so people don't want to watch it all day, or is it the individual's concerned, and when it comes to children, is it the parents' responsibility to monitor that stuff? I think all of those questions play a big role in this moving forward, and I don't know the answers, and that's why I think it's going to be really interesting to watch this play out and see, like, if we draw those lines, where do we decide to draw them?
Yeah, and I don't think there's any real easy answers to it. I mean, just instinctively to me, ultimately the responsibility lies with the end user, whether that person, I mean, obviously if it's a child, then that child's parents. There needs to be some degree of parental supervision involved in those decisions. To me, where I see there, could be a strong, I guess, a decent case is if there's something like deceptive or fraudulent in how the information is presented. But I don't know. I don't know where I come down on it. I will need to see more about what sort of evidence they put on before I can really form any strong opinions about it, I guess.
So I want to move on to a couple other things, but just to get people up to speed on where we're at. This is day one of the trial today, so this is just starting. And like I said, Zuckerberg is expected to testify, so this thing is going to be, under the national spotlight, is going to be, a circus, and you're gonna hear a lot about it, and we're gonna continue to cover it because, again, I find this to be completely interesting. But Meta is facing accusations of targeting children for addictions to Facebook and Instagram. Deputy California Attorney General Megan O'Neill launched her case against Meta in trial that could reshape how Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms operate. O'Neill told the jury that Meta's business model was all about trying to, quote, hook the users, hold them for as long as they can, harvest their data. Now, there's something. If they're stealing data, there's one I understand. You know what I mean? There's one that they...
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the whole premise of social media.
Right.
You are the product.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And there's a big difference between stealing and if you're giving it away.
Right.
So, yeah. So there's another part of this. And then hide the truth from the public, she said. She said children were particularly susceptible to Meta's algorithms, and that Meta was aware of the sought to exploit the fact, pointing to an internal report at Meta. This is amazing that this was literally the title of a memo at Facebook. The young ones are the best ones.
Ugh. Yeah, that has creepy overtones for
Whether
sure.
Whether it's illegal or not, that is a little
I
bit
mean,
gross.
that could have come out of like a cereal company, I mean, it's
Right. The memo titled "The Young Ones Are the Best Ones."
That does sound kind of ominous and creepy.
Yeah.
I'm up in the air on this. I really don't know.
Yeah. The states argue that Meta's addictive platforms resulted in such harms as anxiety, depression, and even suicide, and misled consumers about the platform's safety. Meta needed kids, and it needed to reassure the people who cared about those kids that the kids are safe. So yeah, I mean, this is gonna be wildly entertaining, and I think impactful to the future of social media, which it plays such a huge role in our lives. I mean, social media is everywhere these days. So yeah, going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. Talking to Susie Moore from Red State, redstate.com, Red State Radio, and of course Mike Ferguson in the morning. Another interesting possible court case that could be coming our way. There are a few states that attorneys general that are looking at a way to charge Anthony Fauci as a way to do an end around on Biden's pardon, because if it's state charges, obviously the federal pardon doesn't apply. There's been a lot of talk, Susie, about like what can be done to Anthony Fauci, with that pardon in the way and with his strategy of 111 times of pleading the fifth. Do you expect that this might be the one best chance at maybe holding him to account or forcing him to answer some questions if the states are able to move forward with a piece of legislation against him?
Well, it wouldn't be a piece of legislation.
You're right.
It would be, it would be potential criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry,
so if you're talking about, I get it. If you're talking about criminal prosecution, there's going to be a lot of protections built into just the nature of the fact that he was a federal employee, and much of what he did was in the scope of that federal employment. So that's going to box out a bunch, even setting aside the pardon. Of what could be done criminally in terms of a criminal prosecution. It depends on some of the state laws. I think some of it may have to do with like the money that he was paid, whether there's some sort of, fraudulent violations that one of the states or more, one or more of the states can actually get to. I'm not holding my breath on seeing Anthony Fauci, hauled into Florida or Louisiana or someplace to face, prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that first of all, he's at least getting the heaviest dose of court of public opinion, trial that he can get with Rand Paul basically pantsing him and, letting everyone know just exactly what Tony thought about Tony, not Colombo.
No, I gotcha.
Because that obviously that goes to his legacy, and he's very invested in that. I just don't know. I mean, the dude's 85, 86 years old.
Yeah, 85, I
don't
think.
know that we're going to see. And I've even thought, okay, are there some civil avenues that are open to people to sue him civilly? I don't know. But there's so much for him to answer for, and it isn't just him, but there's so much really to answer for there. And ironically, his former senior advisor, David Moorens, just pled guilty today to conspiracy to defraud the U.S. Now, of course, Moorens did not have a pardon. So, he wasn't protected by that the way that Fauci is. But whether there'll be more pieces that kind of fall into place with, underlings or other people who are involved who don't have those protections, I know I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying this. His reckoning is going to come.
Yeah.
And it just may not be on this, in this plane of existence.
And I agree with you on that. And and maybe that is ultimately what we're going to have to accept here. But the frustration, obviously, and you know this, and everybody knows this, that when it comes to people like Anthony Fauci and Hunter Biden and James Comey and, Clintons and other Bidens and so many other folks that I love what you said, that we've pantsed in the past and exposed for their wrongdoings, when they don't get any type of punishment criminally, I think that just motivates bad actors in the future to say, look, if I can just get enough power, if I can get high enough in the government, if I can get high enough in politics, it doesn't really matter. The worst thing that could happen is my legacy is of a clown and of a liar, But you know what? I could live with that. If that doesn't happen until I'm 85 years old and I'm worth millions of dollars and I've had a pretty great life, I'm just, I think that's a trade that many people will make. And the only way to stop that or to introduce some type of, some type of something that would give
Deterrent.
them pause. Yeah, deterrent. Exactly. Thank you. To this is if we start actually putting some of these people in jail, but it just never happens. And I don't know that it ever
unless
will.
their name is Donald John Trump, in which case, the criminal prosecution can happen because he looked wrong at you. But, I mean, I understand people's frustrations with it. I'm one of those people that, I'm not saying that people that commit crimes shouldn't be criminally prosecuted. I'm not that is definitely not what I'm saying. But I think sometimes when it's a close call, for me, I'm less dialed into or invested in criminal prosecution in jail and an orange jumpsuit than I am about full accountability in a public way. And by that I mean the truth coming out and being agreed on, which is, in this day and age is probably a pipe dream, but they're being definitively shown, okay, Hillary Clinton literally did these things and no one can really refute that at this point.
Right.
I'm more attuned to that, but I know that's not how everybody feels. Any of them. Comey's, he's being prosecuted. I don't know if he's ultimately going to be held criminally responsible or not. Some of these people are being criminally prosecuted. Hillary won't be. And if she was, Donald Trump would probably pardon her.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then you got people like Hunter Biden, who get then you got people like Hunter Biden who get a slap on the wrist, and then they can go, oh, look, but he was prosecuted. Okay, not exactly.
Yeah.
But no, and also I think what you do and why I appreciate these conversations is that you also explain the reality of the situation, and that it's, a lot of people think oh, Rand Paul just showed us the documents. He lied. He should be in jail tomorrow. But it's far from that simple. And, we have to understand that. And that's why I think it's, I think that's why it's so great to have these conversations and talk about how, these things work. And then maybe at some point find a way to actually start holding people accountable for these actions. But great stuff.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I just am also in favor of setting expectations at a realistic
absolutely.
level so that you don't drive yourself crazy.
Exactly.
Over it.
No, we certainly appreciate it. Susie Moore from Red State. Check out our articles every day at redstate.com. Tune in every Sunday afternoon right here on News Talk STL, 4 p.m. for Red State Radio. And, of course, every morning, Susie and Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. Thanks, as always, for your time, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Tony. Have a great day.
Yeah, great stuff there from Susie Moore. All right, we are going to talk to our big tech AI expert. Social media is everywhere, part of our lives as we watch this Meta case unfold. It's going to be, super interesting because social media is just, it's growing. It's becoming a bigger part of our lives. It's already touching every aspect of our lives almost. So anything that happens in that space is important. And right there, along with social media, very similar, is the growth of AI, which is also a part of our lives in almost every aspect at this point. And just getting started, unlike social media, just getting started and going to be more and more impactful in our lives moving forward. And that's why it's so important to talk about these AI and big tech issues with our AI expert. Mike McCleary from Intervine joins us next.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Fox News commentary with Craig Gutfeld. Next.
You're probably listening to this in your car, so let me ask you,
Would you drive without insurance? Of course not. So why is your retirement portfolio unprotected? Gold is portfolio insurance. It helps de-risk your savings when markets get unpredictable. Noble Gold Investments has helped thousands of Americans do exactly that, with no high-pressure sales and thousands of 5-star reviews. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult with your tax or financial professional before making any investment decisions.
Gutfeld explains prominent Democrats distancing themselves from so-called woke rhetoric to his co-host on The Five.
The distancing is a tactical pause. It doesn't dial back. It waits, wins elections, ratchets forward. Civil rights used to mean no Jim Crow. Now it means voter ID is racist. Criminal justice reform used to mean don't arrest people for smoking a joint. Now it's cut them loose if they beat a person senseless on the subway. Environmentalists used to say, give a hoot, don't pollute. You'd have a crying Indian. Now it's stop having kids. And we should really think about banning AC. Abortion used to be, safe, legal, and rare. Now it's, if you don't like your baby, you can kill your baby. They call it Woke 1, probably because they just gave away the game that there's going to be a sequel, Woke 2.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Tony Colombo here for All Solutions Pest Control, the team Christine and I trust to protect our home. We've used multiple services at multiple homes over the years, and I can tell you from all that experience, All Solutions is second to none. If you have a pest problem of any kind, or more importantly, just want to prevent a problem, All Solutions is the team to call. Learn more and take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer right now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Are you tired of hard chlorinated water drying your skin out, tasting bad, and ruining your fixtures? Jones Air and Water Treatment has a solution to this pollution. Our Hydratech H2O leaves you with great tasting, soft water at all fixtures in your home with one unit. Call Jones Air and Water at 636-899-1040 or visit us on the web at joneswater.com. You can be a filter or buy a filter. Jones Air and Water, 636-899-1040 or joneswater.com on the web. Call us now.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
The story behind the story, 1969, the most famous concert in history, Woodstock.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Another great conversation with Susie Moore from Red State and Mike Ferguson in the morning. In that last segment, Crane Durham in the 2 o'clock hour. Subscribe to our podcast if you want to make sure you never miss any of the great conversations that we have here every day. We put the show out as a podcast on basically every podcast platform right after we get off the air every day. So wherever you like to get podcasts on that platform, just subscribe to Colombo and Company, and you'll never miss anything that happens on the show, including our conversations with our big tech AI expert from Intervine and Intervine.com. Mike McCleary is with us. Mike, and we were just talking to Susie about this Meta lawsuit, which, you know, this bleeds into what we talk about with AI and other big tech issues. What happens with this lawsuit against Meta if they're found guilty and some punishment is dished out to a social media platform because they made their content too addicting, particularly for kids? That's going to have some pretty impactful wake across the entire internet and other social media platforms, will it not?
Absolutely. And good to be with you guys, by the way. It's kind of crazy. You know, the only thing that'll happen is they have to pay like $1.3 trillion. So it's not like it's a big deal. No. I think that's their number. Like it's the maximum penalty by every state, by every incident, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I do think that you could naturally take this and play it out right over AI, for example. You know, it is. Yeah. If you think social media is addictive, talk to someone who got used to using AI for 6 months or a year, and then take that away from them. Mm-hmm. You will see true addiction as well.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, and you know, I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to know all these things. but I am a parent and I am somebody who lives in this world with AI and social media being so prevalent. And as part of the media and as somebody who uses AI and is on social media and on social media platforms all the time. And I use AI all the time. Is it, as I said with Susie, we on this show and every other radio show and television show, we try to present compelling, quote unquote, addicting content. We want people to feel like they can't turn off the station or they can't, miss the next segment. They can't miss the next guest. They can't miss the next topic because of what because we want to keep things as interesting and compelling as possible for people. So is it, whose responsibility is it to step away from that? Is it a social media platform's responsibility to dial down how interesting they are, or kick people off after a certain amount of time, or is it the individual's own responsibility, or if in the case of kids, the parents' responsibility to stop them from overusing a social media platform? I don't know the answer, honestly, and that's why I think this is going to be such an interesting case.
I mean, you make a great point, because in reality, this then what opens it up to all of media. I mean, think about it, like your news feed, you're on your devices, the little news feed they show you, it's designed to be addicting, to keep going through the scroll.
Yeah.
YouTube designed to make you have to go watch the next video.
Headlines.
TikTok design.
You know,
headlines.
People have been writing
Absolutely.
headlines for 200 years, and that's the whole point of a good.
Yep.
That's why good headlines, when a paper or a writer, a journalist is known for their amazing headlines. They are valued. That's it.
Exactly.
Because they have found a way to, in 3 seconds or less, found a way to hook people into their content, and that's their job. So this is just the continued extension of that to a certain degree. Now if they're lying to users and they're stealing from users, that is a different story, obviously. But just creating such an efficient algorithm that you've kind of cracked the code on how to hold the attention span of the younger generation of humans, I don't know that that's I don't know that would be something that is illegal or not.
I agree, because I mean, one, why aren't we going after TikTok then? Because they are the most addictive social media platform on earth ever created. I mean, remember the whole conversation about us wanting to buy TikTok so that China didn't have control of it. The biggest part of their asset wasn't their hardware, wasn't their users, it was their algorithm. Their algorithm was the number one piece of intellectual property they valued the most, because it did exactly what you're talking about, Tony. And I think the only way I see this in my head, again, I'm not a lawyer, I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so I can't even pretend to be one, but is if they intentionally targeted minors, I think that's where they can go with this. And if they have evidence showing that, I think that's probably where it might go.
Yeah, and just because I am making the case that it might not be illegal, doesn't mean that I don't think it's that I agree with it. It could be unethical, it could be gross, it can be underhanded, but there's a difference between all of those things and being illegal. So that's why it's, why I find this so important. And you just touched on one there. I'm pulling up my notes because I don't know if you heard me say the name of this memo, because one of the things that one of the things that's like, I guess, going to be one of the big pieces of the state's argument against Facebook and how it targeted specifically young people to get them addicted. There was an internal memo written and put out at Meta that was titled "The Young Ones Are the Best Ones."
Oh my God. I'm having a hard time even laughing about that, because that just sounds so, I gotta go shower.
I know, right? It makes you kind of throw up in your mouth a little bit, but yeah. Holy. So they were definitely targeting the younger generation
Yep.
with the content. But again, as gross and creepy as that is, unless they're lying or stealing or whatever, it's going to be an interesting, the freedom is gives you the freedom to make mistakes and do bad things and expose yourself to things that maybe aren't the most healthy for you.
And where are the parents, like you said? Like at some point, parents have to have some role in this. At least that's how I feel. I know that you and I feel the same way. Lots of others, probably half of America, maybe more, feel the same way, but not everyone does. I feel like they have to have some role in this. Otherwise, everything's up for grabs if you just let your kids do whatever they want.
Yeah, and then you nailed it with the TikTok, reference, because if you prove that Facebook is guilty of hooking the younger generation, TikTok is, they're dead to rights in that regard.
Gosh.
And even YouTube and other social media platforms would have to be under that. You know what? If they would make clickbait on YouTube illegal, if you face jail time for writing, a thumbnail or a YouTube a headline that has nothing to do with your actual video or content, then I'm okay with that. I'm all right. I'm okay with that one being illegal, because that happens all the freaking time, where a video is labeled something and then it doesn't deliver on that promise in any way.
You shouldn't click.
Yeah.
You should not click. But I still do, Tony.
Yeah.
I still click.
Yeah.
I gotta know.
Yeah, just in
what
case
are those
it really
5
is there.
best burgers.
Yeah,
in St.
just in
Louis?
case it's really there. I don't want to miss it. That I'd be okay with being illegal. So while we have Mike on the line, I want to talk about. I want to get into this agreement. Deals with BMG, Warner Brothers Music.
Oh yeah,
artists being that would allow artists to be used in AI generated music. That's concerning and I think important. But first, real quick, you and I have talked a lot about the guidelines and where do we, establishing kind of the rules of the road moving forward as AI develops so quickly. And one of those things has been, should it be disclosed if you are looking at a piece of content that's AI generated, listening to something, reading something that is AI generated? Should you know that going in, that this was, that this is where this content is being generated from? And some of these big companies are sort of addressing that on their own here before any type of legislation is put in place. Can you just give us the quick update on that?
Yeah, sure. This is a great example, and kind of where I think maybe we were hoping it would go, where companies are taking it upon themselves so that people like 87-year-old senators don't have to, but they're they're self-identifying. No one uses that term. But that's what they're doing here. They're identifying what is true AI content, and there's a couple big names out there. One is Anthropic. This one confuses me, Tony. But Anthropic, makers of Claude, been in the news a lot, at odds with the government on a lot of things, but has an awesome AI tool called Claude. They are now starting to put watermarks in all of their content. So hear me out here. If you ask Claude to give you like a report on what are the best 5, restaurants in St. Louis, in that text, there will be some hidden clues identifying that it came from Claude, which is really weird. I'm trying to wrap my head around this, but they say they have the technology. They say they're using something. Google's done this in the past as well, that just long forms of text will be identifiable as have coming from an AI tool like Claude, which is interesting.
It is
right?
interesting, especially with the way you said it, like it could be part of the text or part of the script or the body of the video or the, or the article or whatever it may be, which, what does that mean exactly? And we'll find out as we go. And why isn't it just like at the beginning of the article? This article generated by Claude. You know what I mean? Like, just start with that.
And clearly what they're trying to do is make sure that people can't mass produce, content for the internet that is not easily identifiable.
Well,
I keep thinking it's like encryption by like, I don't know, the Knights Templar or something are putting word code inside of here. Like every 17th word is going to have like some kind of, and I think it really is something like that, but it's going to be on the fly that AI will.
If you take if you take the first letter and in the sentence of the first The first sentence it spells out Claude, and that's how you know. And that's how you know it's been identified. And you know what it gets to is, and I know that I am different. It shows you that the general public has a distrust if anything's made by AI. Just because, like, to me, it's not a negative. A lot of people look at it as an automatic negative if a video or report or something is generated by AI. It's not for me. I want to know. I think the transparency is important, but just because something's generated by AI doesn't mean that it's inaccurate or wrong. It just means that that's the tool that was used to generate this. But if you do feel like you have to hide it, it's obviously because you don't think that your audience trusts the content coming from AI rather than a human being. So to me, I'm just like, I don't care. I want to know, just like I like to look and see who's writing an opinion piece, when I'm reading something, because a lot of times I'll know who that writer is and I'll know their political leanings.
Right.
And,
right.
just like, just for that same type of transparency. But it does show you, I think, the mistrust that people have. I'm talking to Mike McCleary from Intervine. We're going to talk about this agreement that could allow music artists to be used in AI videos. We'll have Mike explain that in a moment. Don't forget about Intervine, intervine.com. Mike's local family-owned business makes the best flashlights, lanterns, headlamps out there, including batteries in all different sizes. You can stock up on AA, AAA batteries, all at intervine.com, and you can get all of it for 25% off just by using my name, Tony, at checkout. Tony as your promo code at checkout. Get you 25% off flashlights, lanterns, headlamps, batteries, and more at intervine.com. Intervine is INTERVINE. Use Tony at checkout to get 25% off at Intervine. All right, we're going to continue the conversation with AI expert Mike McCleary next.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Here's my problem.
Completely agree with your sentiments.
He talks about we're divided. Well, yeah, we are. And we need to wake up as a country and realize what's going on.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Had another round of severe weather this past weekend. Some areas of the metro got hit pretty hard over the weekend. This is part of being in St. Louis in the summertime. Severe weather is something that we have to deal with. And very often, this can cause damage to your home, to your business, specifically when it comes to the siding, to the gutters, the fascia, the soffit at your home. And if you have any issues in those areas, any damage in those areas, any concerns in those areas, that is where the team at Gutter Pros comes in huge. Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable to your doorstep. They're the Gutter Pros, so of course they've got you covered when it comes to gutters. Gutter repair, new gutter installation, leaf protection, which is going to be a big deal coming up here soon because we're getting closer and closer to the fall season, and that's going to be a problem if you don't have the right protection on your gutters when the leaves start to fall. But it's so much more than gutters. It's siding repair, siding installation, fascia, soffit. They do it all at Gutter Pros, local business that has been here for years, will be here for years, that you can trust. We trust them at our home. I think you can too. So if you have any issues with your gutter, with your siding, with your fascia or soffit, call the Gutter Pros now. Learn more and contact them through the website, gutterpros.com.
Hey, it's Chris Arps. Becky and I recently discovered a restaurant that's quickly become one of our go-to restaurants, Timothy's in Creve Coeur. Led by executive chef Will Mabry, Timothy's serves contemporary American cuisine with a touch of Southern charm. Dishes like pastrami, smoked lamb, and shrimp and grits. My wife absolutely loved the lobster pot pie, and everything we've tried has been incredible. Amazing house-made desserts and over 500 wines to choose from. Enjoy dinner 7 nights a week, plus lunch, brunch, and private events. Timothy's in Creve Coeur at 12710 Olive Boulevard or online at timothysstl.com.
There's always something to celebrate in Augusta, Missouri, just 1 hour from St. Louis.
Every season brings festivals and special events you won't want to miss. Hop the free trolley to 10 wineries in America's first wine district. Bike the Katy Trail and explore historic small-town charm. Make Augusta your next getaway. Find events and cozy B&Bs at visitaugusta-chamber.org.
Coming soon, the return of the Defiance Roadhouse. Located on Highway 94 along the Missouri River, this long-standing fixture is known for its biker-friendly atmosphere, live music, and decades as a beloved community gathering place. Rev your engines and stand by for the grand opening, early September. The Roadhouse is back.
Fall means the return of Mizzou football. And this year promises another great season of SEC action. There's no better place to catch every game than Harpo's in Chesterfield. With its excellent sports bar atmosphere and the best patio in West County, Harpo's is your Tiger headquarters. Harpo's, STL.com.
Ready to reel in a monster? Gateway Blues Catfishing puts you on the biggest catfish the Mississippi and Missouri rivers have to offer year-round. Captain Robert Stelmach brings 10 years of guiding experience, so you're in expert hands. U.S. Coast Guard licensed, fully insured, and always safe. Whether it's your first cast or your 500th, we'll get you on the fish. Book your trip today at gatewaybluescatfishing.com. That's Gateway bluescatfishing.com.
The world is a vampire sent to drain.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo in studio, and Mike McCleary from Intervine, our AI expert, is on the line with us. Mike, there's been deals made with Warner Brothers Music and BMG and others that would allow certain musical artists to be used in AI-generated music. You know, then the royalties, you know, come into play with that kind of stuff. Explain to us what this is, and because I'm, you know, I get a little concerned when we start messing with music. But that's just
Now, here's why I think this is a good thing.
Okay.
So first off, the company that has been involved in these lawsuits is called Suno, SUNO, and they are by far the best AI music generation service out there. It's crazy how good. I mean, if anyone has never tried them yet, they have a free trial. Go get it and just type in create the best and put in whatever type of song you like. Best rock anthem from the 80s ever created. Just type that in and see what it does. It is unbelievable what it'll do. Completely new and unique. It's amazing. Now, the downside is, how did they get able to do this? Well, they had to train their AI on something. Music, most likely, and most likely some of the best music ever created in the entire history of music, which means they probably trained it on real artist music, which is why these companies are coming after them right now, because they don't want to, you know, they don't want all the artists out there to lose their livelihood because AI can create music as good as theirs right now. So, and that's debatable. There's a lot of, you know, flavor and taste.
Can I just quickly say, because this is an issue that's outside of the AI realm and has really been in the news a lot recently, of the idea of quote unquote stealing music. And if you do steal music, then I think you should be held accountable. I think that the people who created it originally should be paid. But there are a lot of examples recently of where, you know, something sounds sort of similar, or there is, you know, clearly inspired by something, and people are accusing and sometimes getting actually, you know, charged with stealing. And I'm not, you know, if you grow up loving Pearl Jam, and 20 years later you make music and it's got a, you know, you can hear that influence of what you grew up listening, what that artist grew up listening to, that's not stealing. That's
100%.
So it's a to me there's a fine line that we've already kind of smudged a bit and made some mistakes with when it comes to stealing music.
And art's the same way.
Yeah,
you know,
and I don't care if AI is influenced or inspired by, you know, great music of the past. I have no problem with that. But, you know, if it's just taking a song from the 80s and saying, here, this is a pretty good song. You know, like that's
they're not doing that clearly.
Right.
You know what? They did use it to train it, but now I think it's all math. I think it's all math because music is by far it's a very mathematic waveform kind of science.
Yeah.
But doesn't stop companies from coming after them with huge lawsuits. And so here's what's happened. So first, I believe was Warner Music came after them saying that, like, you know what, we want you to pay us because we believe you've used our artists to train your model. And then BMG, another huge label, came back and said and did the exact same thing. And what's happened, and this happens with some other smaller tools, is that they were able to work on arrangements where, and here's the good part, only artists who opt into it are eligible. But if an artist, let's say it's Brad Paisley, is okay with letting Suno create music inspired by their voice, then they will get royalties based from music that is made off of that. And so here's the awesome, cool thing about this. We talked about this so many times about, people are losing their livelihoods, they're losing jobs to AI. Artists, especially, feel like they're losing the ability to make a living. But we always talked about, we don't even know what these things are, but things will come up. New ways of making a living will come up. Here's a brand new one that I wouldn't thought of. Artists can now have a new revenue stream by allowing AI to use their voice likeness.
I love that. And I honestly think that solves a problem, not creates a problem, because you're right. Artists, are struggling to make money the way that they used to. I mean, the record industry has always been corrupt. It's, just at various levels, depending on, certain circumstances. But, record labels have always been taking way more, in my opinion, from artists than they should. But now with the way that people consume music now, and it's so digital and it's download based, we're not selling albums anymore. Artists aren't making albums and selling albums anymore. They're kind of beholden to those downloads and live performances. That's really where all the money's generated. So, there's less avenues for artists to make money than there were in the past. So to create a new one,
it's awesome.
If you're paying an artist for the use of their voice or their likeness or their signature songs, that's great. I got no problem with that at all, because I think it's pretty cool. Important thing there is giving.
Because imagine you and I being able to do that now, like, because the goal would be you go into Suno and you say, like, you know what, create a song like Pearl Jam. And maybe and give it my own. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the AI with Mike show and Tony, and have Pearl Jam sing it. And then you have a song like that. They get a little money out of it. You get an awesome song out of it with no one yelling at you. And everyone is happy.
Yeah. And we split the revenue, and the artist gets paid for their. I think that again solves a problem. Now again, there's a lot of details and minutia in there that needs to be hammered out. But overall, I don't mind that. I don't mind that one bit. We got just a few minutes left here with Mike McCleary from Intervine, our big tech AI expert here on Colombo and Company. Just enough time for me to have my weekly rant about ads.
I'm so ready. I miss
about
it.
Marketing algorithms. So recently, I had to get. I am now an ordained minister. I'm going to be officiating my daughter's wedding. Coming up, and so like so many people, you go online, you fill out the form, you pay whatever the fee, and you get your certification, and now you're good to go, right? Not everybody, millions of people have done it, no big deal. I, just looked into a couple of the companies, did a little bit of research. You picked the one that I was gonna, because there's multiple companies that offer this certification, this service out there, or whatever, and took care of it. Now I'm ordained, and we're done. I'm done. The process is over. Now I'm getting bombarded with ads from different websites. Hey, use this, here, if you need to be ordained minister, this is the best way. This is the fastest way. This is the cheapest way. And I'm like, look, I'm done. This is an after the fact situation. Like, if you know enough about me to know that I was doing this, then you should know that it's complete. Just like when I was ranting a couple weeks ago about the cross-country moving service that we used to move my daughter back home last year, how I still get ads from them. Like, do you think that I'm moving across the country again? You think I need your service twice in a month? Like, why are you targeting with me these ads?
Gosh.
It seems like, as sophisticated as these algorithms and targeted, this marketing is, that seems to be a big mistake. Like, you're wasting money on me because I've already got it.
And I don't know who's the idiot here, because is it the advertising companies because they're advertising to you, or do they just not know? Like, imagine if you bought from 1 of 10, the other 9 don't know. All they know is that you were on there looking around stuff, and so maybe they just don't know. Or is it the advertising platforms like YouTube or whatever, who they're not going to tell them? Why do they care? They're just going to keep getting more people to sign up for ads. But does that mean you're open for confessions at some point?
Sure, whatever you need. You need some counseling. You need some. Yeah.
We need a whole segment for this.
I'm here. Yeah, I'm official. I got my certification. I didn't graduate college, so I finally have a degree that I can hang on the wall. We're good to go. Yeah, but I just think that's so funny. Like, you're monitoring me enough to know that I was looking on here, but you don't know that I don't need this anymore, and now I'm just getting bombarded with it.
But the platform knows, like YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is, they know that you completed a checkout. Yeah. They should tell these other advertisers so they're not wasting money and wasting your valuable time.
Mike McClary from Intervine and Intervine.com. Always appreciate your time, my friend. Great stuff as always. Talk to you again soon.
Same here, guys. Take care.
And keep it here. Larry's commentary is next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show right here on News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe with an important message from Missouri 811. Every day, underground utilities like gas, power, water, sewer, and fiber internet keep Missouri running. These vital services are the backbone of our communities, but digging without contacting Missouri 811 can put them and you at risk. It's fast, it's free, and it's the law. Contact Missouri 811 before you dig.
Call 811 every dig, every time. It's the law. This ad is brought to you by Missouri 811.
This is Larry.